because uh, I probably should have already done that. So, yeah, this was probably it. Welcome. I'm Mike Milan, Casual Mike, and I'm with Blaine Birch. And I'll tell you, this is episode 29 of Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine. And this is going to be perfect, Blaine, because, well, it's going to be, when should I give up on an idea? It's sorry I'm laughing, but when should I give up on an idea, on a product, on a business or whatever that is? And I'm doing this one as I'm trying something new. We're trying to go live, stream this thing, see what's happening. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea what's even going on right now, right? I pushed a couple buttons. I think we're live in a couple places. I don't know. So I don't know.
I guess we'll find out. We'll have to watch our chatter today. I can't edit then if we're live. Not that I do. It's like one time I keep on.
Well, the other thing is I'm like going, well, if I have two screens, maybe I can figure it out. I don't. I'm flying blind.
Yeah, we've had a little some technical challenges in the studio today. We call it the studio.
Well, that's what happens when you have no plan. You just kind of sit down with a beer and you're like going, oh, let's try this thing.
We got beer. That's all we need.
That's all you need, right? That's all you need. So we're trying that. We'll go to a live view, and that way we can say, hey, I don't even know what's happening just yet. I have no idea what we're even looking at. Probably us. I hope it's us, right? So I hope it's us. All right.
We'll find out after.
Yeah. All right. So, hey, man, I tell you what, sorry for the rough, rocky start. But, that could be an indication I should give up on an idea.
This was the seed of one. We'll talk about that. We'll decide when do you give up and when do you keep going too, right? That's the flip side of that too.
Yeah, that's right. So, all right. So I tell you what, if you're new to the show, if you haven't seen us before, you haven't heard from us before, we are at michaelblaine.com. And one of the things we do is we talk about business, we talk about beer, we talk about bullshit. All of those three things, right? It's a well-rounded conversation of B's. So speaking of one of those B's, beer, what are you drinking today, big guy?
Yeah, and with the beer, we actually do more drinking than we do talking about it, but that's all right. I have got today Causal Continuum from Resident Culture in Charlotte, North Carolina. It is an IPA, but it's, let me show you, it's like a New England style IPA. It's a little bit cloudy. Delicious beer. I honestly don't know that much about the brewery, but it's a really good beer, and I'm liking it. So Resident Culture Brewing Company. Really nice beer.
Oh, good. You know what? I tell you what, I ran across this one, and I've always liked Kolsch's, right? It's kind of that citrusy, type of thing. So I always like a Kolsch. But I ran across an Allstat Kolsch. And you look at me, it's a real German-looking can. It's even embossed, right? So if you run your hand across the can, it's an embossed can. Like real raised, super fancy, right? From Fredericksburg, Texas. Now, those of you that know Texas, know Fredericksburg, it's normally known for its wine, but there's a huge German influence. So there's some breweries there. There's some great restaurants, perfect shopping. Their Christmas, setup is by far one of the best in Texas. So if you haven't been there, go. We try to go there just to even spend the night and go to a couple wineries and things like that. So Fredericksburg. So we're going to drink Kolsch from Fredericksburg, which is about, I'm going to say an hour or so just north of me, right here in San Antonio.
Nice. That's awesome. I'd love to visit someday. I've got the German roots, all the German grandparents. I'd love to revisit some of, especially the food. Right?
Well, so when you come down, all right, so New Braunfels, we'll go up that way, green spelled with a U. So, one of those, but we'll float the Guadalupe River. You're going to love it. It's an awesome experience all the way through, lots of, actually, maybe you should come during Oktoberfest or worse, it's called Worst Fest, but it's like October, November. Big beer, lots of polka bands, all those type of things. I think you'd love it. Probably the largest in the nation. Worst Fest is what it's called.
And I'm pretty sure the USGP, the F1 race in Austin, is in October, and it might be a real fun. If that dovetail because I'm a huge F1 fan, so
Yeah.
we love watching F1. I'd love to go to that great event. So
Yeah. All right. So you and I have been in businesses, decades, right? Decades. And I've had some winners as ideas and I've had some losers as ideas. What I kind of wanted to dig in today was, you have an idea, you think it's great, you think, it's the most wonderful thing in the world, and for whatever reason, it's just not working, right? Now, one of the things that's happened to me in the past is that if you put a group of me and my friends in a room, we can come up with the most brilliant idea in the world. We can war game it out and formulate a plan that's going to just knock everybody's socks off. But it's called groupthink, right? Because we all like our own ideas. And as soon as we introduce it to somebody else in the world, somebody else in the market, they could go, maybe. I don't think it's for me, right? That's kind of the experience that I've had. Have you ever had some ideas that you just thought were awesome, but immediately hit resistance?
Yeah, man. I've been in business since I was in '99 or something. I probably can't count all of them because that's the thing with entrepreneurs is where generally there's no shortage of ideas. The famous ideas are like Askins. Everyone's got one, and that's over the years we have had just so many ideas. And like you said, the ideas are sometimes it can be a business idea, it could be a product idea, it could be a service idea, it could be just any number of things. And early on when we started doing some product, like especially when the iPhone came out, we started making some apps for that, and everyone you think is going to be brilliant, and then you find out it's I will say, learning the hard way is building it first and then finding out it was a waste of time. Mm-hmm. So you learn from that and you go, let's vet the idea before you have a lot dedicated to it and invested in it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, sometimes I get so caught up in the excitement of the new idea, the new project, things like that. I don't put as much due diligence in, right? I mean, maybe I don't ask enough people. Maybe I start down the road without getting good feedback, which has done nothing but cost me time and money every single time, right? Every single time.
Exactly, yeah. I wish I would have had the Lean Startup book when I started my first business and when we started playing around with product and things like that. If we had been disciplined and tested things, we would have been miles and miles ahead. And you know what? On the other side is sometimes reading through the thickets and going, we got something here. Like there is something here. But when you hear that is when you have that pull from the market. Like when it's funny. So I actually had a conversation yesterday about a new service I think we're going to roll in, and the reason we're going to roll it in is because the partner I was talking to is basically demanding that we take their money to do this. And it would be really effective for both sides and profitable for us. And it was just like, that's kind of the opposite. When the market is like basically slapping across the face and saying, we need this and I want to pay you for it. Okay, that's a good indication. But as entrepreneurs, we always think we're so smart that I think a lot of times we listen to our ideas and our instincts above all, and sometimes can go down that path way, way, way too long. And it's just full of regret by the end and cash laid out in this wake, right?
Well, the hotel staffing company I had, I mean, we were really good at heart of the house positions. And when I say heart of the house, I talk about housekeepers, the landscapers, the dishwashers. I mean, the people that just kind of make it go. But I had an idea because of the difficulty that hotels had in staffing banquets, right? Events, conferences, banquets, serving food, those type of things. I'm thinking maybe I can get into more restaurant serving, more banquet serving. Mm-hmm. And guess what? That's a tough gig. It really was. So mainly they have a difficulty because it's so periodic. It's so sporadic. You could have 80 hours in a week, or you could have 0. So it's hard to keep the same people on staff all the time. You've got to have other things for them to do. And I'm thinking, well, I've got enough. I mean, we're a staffing business, so we always have a pool of applicants. But then that leads to another situation where you always got new people walking in the door, which means there's training time, there's downtime, there's a lot of other liability that goes with that. But we tried it. We did try the idea, and there was a point in time where I thought we could make it successful. I thought we could make money at it. And believe it or not, it just wasn't worth the hassle because we were putting in, almost 10 to 20 hours of recruitment and placement for one shift. Right? I mean, so if you didn't have 50 people you had to fill, for that one shift, it almost wasn't worth your time. So, I mean, the margin on it was so small, and the headache and effort to administrate it was terrible. So we ended up giving up on the idea because the stress it caused on my staff was greater than the benefit of the profit.
Yeah.
Right. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's every time you step into something new, it's going to seem easy. Like, you always know that. It always seems easy. And I'm sure you've talked with entrepreneurs like I have at times where there's, I know sort of this, almost the serial entrepreneurs. They'll be working on something, they'll be going, they start to get some friction, it isn't quite working. Well, let's try this one and let's try that one because it always seems grass is always greener, right? And so there's the danger, there's sort of the two sides because there's the danger on always chasing something new because you never learn, like you've never experienced enough and to learn to go, you know what? Here's how we can make this work. Here's how we can make it profitable. But there is that decision point where it's like, no, we can't make this work at all. And it doesn't matter how far in you are, you just have to cut it loose. The other side is, just before you're going to get some success, you've learned all the hard ropes, like the hard lessons. You know how hard it is. It's like, but you're so far ahead of everybody else because now you know it. Take that knowledge and make it work. And so it's a tricky decision sometimes to figure that out. Sometimes it's really plainly obvious, but other times it's tricky.
All right. So what are some reasons you think people should give up on an idea? I mean, money's an obvious one. I mean, and even that we can debate, well, how long should I go losing money?
Yeah.
All right. So what are some others? And then we'll kind of dig into them.
I think the biggest one is how's the market responding? Is there a market pull? Is there interest? Will people pay? The problem is some of these businesses, it's about getting, a jabillion users. So don't pay anything, but you'll monetize it later. Like I'm not, I guess that's another a reason that you get so many users and so much traction, you can do something with it. If it's something you are looking to monetize, it's not, the thing to me is that it's not the promise of money. It's not someone saying they'll spend the money. It's like someone opens up their wallet and pays for it. That's the gold standard that you have to start with. And then you have to look at, is there a lot of people that are willing to do the same? So it's a challenge. It's a challenge because even with us, we've been poking around the wrong market for a while, and there was some, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we got it, right? Like, go, right? Man, the worst thing we could have done is had a little bit of success and cut out too early. And then there's other times where it's like, I know in my past, there's times that we hung on and like, we've all been there where it's like, holy smokes, I think I just flushed 50 grand on that. Like, non-entrepreneurs can't understand that. When it's like, we chased that, we built it, it did not work. And you finally go, no, good money after that, you got to kill it, right?
Yeah. All right. So that happened to me. You got to remember at the point in time I made this decision, I thought I was golden, right? Like almost everything I touched was going to, spin off cash. I had 3 bar restaurants. I had 9 property, units that I was renting out, those type of things. And I had a hotel staffing company. And they were all kind of working together because I could take, the housekeepers and have them, clean the apartments. And then, I could take any of the restaurant workers and just kind of move them around and did the different restaurants because we had that kind of process. So when I was approached, and this happens to you, believe it or not, it happens to you if people start to see you have some success, they come to you with ideas. They go, hey, you're good at this, you should try that, or we should go into business together on this type of thing. Well, I fell into that. But I put a rule in place like going, I won't jump into a new idea unless I can go get a customer first. Right, so think about that. It's what you just said. Say, if I can get somebody to commit, like going, hey, I'm going to do this. If I did this, would you be interested? Is this something that you would buy? So you kind of already pre-sell it.
Yeah.
I jumped into the herbal supplement business. Right.
Okay.
Can you? All right, you can see how it fits, right? I'm really just selling people's time. Why can't I sell pills? well, because I can't, right? It's a service business and a retail business. They don't really mix. I didn't really know much about it, but I had a friend that worked at a major retailer, and I was able to get our product. It was called Recover. If people go look it up, and it was all over kind of the Midwest. Into Walgreens. We were in 119 Walgreens. I got a commitment from Walgreens before I jumped into the business.
Nice.
Yeah, you would think, right? You would think, oh, that's good. And then we picked up another a distributor, and we were able to get into about 500 stores pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about Walgreens, if you don't know this. What I didn't know is that every linear foot on those shelves have a gross profit amount attached to it, which means I want to make this much per month out of this foot. So think about a box of something, and maybe Walgreens makes $1 per package. So if there's 50 packages in a box that's sitting on the shelf, that's $50. That's what they want. It's pretty simple math, but then they have thousands of products. Right? So you want $50 from all of these things, and that's how they come up with their budgets. It also is how they come up with who stays and who goes, as far as new products come in. And we had a contractual obligation to reach what's called 12x in turnover. Right, and you as a cash flow guy, they want to buy a new box every month, 12 times a year. Right. Well, we never got there. Guess what happens when you don't meet your contractual obligations with Walgreens?
Yeah, you get flushed up the back door into the alley. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. You lose 119 stores. When you lose 119 stores, the distributor doesn't want to work with you anymore. and you lose a couple $100,000. That happens, right? So
and the pressure is like you learn that hard lesson. And the pressure is then like you had the traction and everything, but then also you realize, it was probably like it's on you to do all the marketing and all the marketing spend and somehow do that profitably. And the challenge just goes way up. So that's interesting because I didn't know any of that, but I can see how that all interplays and how that you have to make that shelf space work.
Well, and here's what happened to us. Again, it was throwing good money after bad. We were at every event. We went on radio. We went on TV. We hired a celebrity influencer, in town to pitch us. Think of the money that goes into that, all with the message, as seen in Walgreens. Buy it at Walgreens. We were trying to drive as much traffic as we could to Walgreens because we knew that was the anchor. Yeah. Well, the thing is, if it only gets we got to 9x, so we weren't even close, really.
Yeah.
At that point in time, we tried to save it. Excuse me. I not just the Walgreens. I said, well, maybe I can save the other 400 stores, but I would have had to go find a new distributor, things like that. And there's a point in time where we had to pull the plug, and you pull the plug when you got a quarter of your warehouse still full and you can't get rid of it. Right? Yeah. And that's kind of what happened to us.
I know one of the ones that I think back on that. We finally I had to sort of kill it was, and this is going back at least 15 years or more. So it's quite a long way back, but we had started developing. We wanted to develop our own IP, and we were starting to look at. We were an interactive company, and we had started to look at And this is pre-iPhone and everything. And we had schemes for like mobile games out in the world games where they were neat, probably 10 years ahead of their time. And we didn't have the technology probably to do it well, but we thought we did. And so we came up with all these ideas. We were pitching these like all this interactive stuff. And then we found, well, you know what, if we could tie it to a television series, we could build, we thought it'd be really cool because we do sort of like, now it's like multi-platform, blah, 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 right? And so we started pitching TV series. And this was a little longer thread than it sounds, but we did this and we were pitching these things. We almost got one on Nat Geo, like National Geographic. We had a really cool series. But it basically it ended up, the series was a little too dark for the time, because I think this was back probably 2008 or 2009 when the world was starting to shut down, and we had this series that was quite dark that was built on, it's kind of like almost like a mix of Mythbusters and Assassinations. It was cool, but it was kind of dark, right? But we sat down and looked at this, and when we finally got the final no, I started to follow the thread, and we had so many different people that we got involved from the producer level and everything, that it started to get like, I don't think there'd be anything left at the end. We had so many people involved in this bloody thing that it was, I think probably the luckiest thing was they said no. And I don't remember exact timing, but I remember going to an event one day because we were still kind of thinking, it'd be so cool to pitch this multi-platform something or other. And we went into some sort of event, and it was full of television producers, and up in Canada, right? And some are super successful. But what struck me was I looked around the room and I realized, like, there are the superstars, but the superstars aren't here today. There's a few hundred people here. And it dawned on me that, you know what, we're the most successful people in this business, in this room, and we're not doing TV. And it was like this cloud lifted, because we had kind of gone through it. It seemed easy at the time, and we actually got really far along. And then suddenly there was this realization that we had learned enough about the industry, and that, no, you have to be like a superstar. Mm-hmm. And I remember walking out and going, no, we're done. Like, we've got a company over here that's super successul, and we're going down the wrong path here. This is not, we are not prepared to go all in on this. And I didn't even see that, like, it was a poor fit. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of, we had to go so deep to learn it, and then go, oh shit, that's not good. And it was interesting, is out of all that time and dedication and the things we had going, it was just like that. We're like, nope.
Yeah.
We're done. This is not the way to go. We got good stuff happening over here. Kill that. Yeah. And it was weird to do it, but it was just instantaneous, right?
Yeah. Hey, have you ever killed an idea because you didn't have the right people to execute it, or maybe a key person left? And you're like going, we can't run it. I've actually had to do that, right? Where, a key person that has some institutional knowledge or some knowledge, deeper on how to do something well, leaves the company for another opportunity, and you just can't keep up with, a part of the business.
Yeah. Honestly, nothing comes to mind except that I can see exactly what you're saying, like, and kind of want to hear about it, because I think that's a real key thing, and it goes into how you identify talent and value talent and retain talent, because that's really challenging. But it's not just talent. When you can build maybe a product or a service that can be fundamental to your business, can you recognize it and test it and make sure you can keep them? That's a challenge.
Yeah, well, part of it was, all right, so we, in a training business, right? I think I'm known pretty well, financial analysis, cash flow analysis, those type of things. But we had a person that was kind of a part-timer with us when I was up at Finagraph, mm-hmm. and they were really good at the sales aspect, meaning teaching a sales process to bankers. Right, how to make calls, how to put your call sheet together, how to actually run a sales conversation, how to create a sales theme, all of these things. Well, he had another opportunity. First of all, his full-time job was as a firefighter, and then he had a baby. His whole life had changed, because he had a baby and he needed to spend more time at home. He couldn't be on the road, training, on behalf of the training division. So what do you do with that? I mean, and I tried it. I went to one. I tried to do what he did. I went to one in Montecito, California, and bombed. Just absolutely. I mean, and I don't usually bomb in training. I was lost, right? Just because of the sales that I had done forever is not the same type of selling you do as a loan officer. There's a distinct difference. So if you don't have that knowledge, you can't answer the questions. I didn't even have the experience to talk about, well, here's how you approach a small business owner and blah, blah. I didn't have it. So we ended up having to kill, 30% of the revenue off of the training just because we didn't have a person at that point in time to fill in.
Yeah. And it's those are like, I can't relate exactly to that, but I also I do know that those types of things are the things that usually you see after the fact. That I didn't realize how important this was or that was, and that's the it's like you're forced to kill something, but it's really unfortunate because if you'd realize man, that was really useful. You might have been able to do some sort of backup or have something in place, right? But you don't know until afterwards, and once it's gone, it's gone.
Well, and when we're talking about that, I mean, life changes can be a reason that you have to give up on an idea or give up on your business. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you get sick, you go through divorce. They say that the number one cause of businesses to fail in the U.S. right now is divorce.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just because they have to sell the company as part of the division of assets or whatever. I mean, it's just it's one of the largest causes of business failure. And of course, they don't list that in their list. They say, well, no, it's cash flow, it's undercapitalized, it's wrong team, wrong whatever. Yeah, sometimes it's a life event that changes everything, right? I mean, it happened to me, right? So I mean. So I get it. I understand.
Well, and I think there's the need to be able to build the business so that it can run without you. Like people always say that, build the business so that it can run without you. That is easier said than done. Mm-hmm. Like I know right now we're not at that point. And at some point, like I know it's in the back of my mind, it's important to be able to do that. Now, the business can run if I'm on vacation for a few weeks. Like we've got this thing. It's not like, Joey, I wish I would take vacation for a few weeks, but that's another topic. But it can run for a while, but could it run forever? Not right now. It just couldn't, and it's not that easy to do. So it's I think we're probably getting way off the topic of when you know when to quit, but it's all sort of related, right? Like you might be forced to if you're not careful.
Well, I mean, I think that's all part of it. Like, I mean, if you do go through a divorce, sometimes you have to come up with your partner's part of the equity. If it's community property and they own half the business and the business is worth $1 million, where else do you come up with $500,000 if you don't have it in cash? Right? You might have to sell the business and give up on the idea or give up on the dream. To satisfy another obligation. I mean, what about stress? What about those times you're in a position, you've built a company or whatever, and it's just it's more than you can handle. It's just overwhelming.
Yeah, and I think as a business owner, you're likely to experience that at some point. I certainly have at times where. And it goes back a little bit to our topic. I don't know, last week, week before, the sort of the work-life balance sort of side. How important it is because you have to mitigate that as much as you can because it is going to hit almost every business at some point, if not everybody. Maybe it does everybody. It certainly has for me. And there's times when it can be really stressful, and you have to be able to manage it and work your way through it and have tactics to be able to do that because. Business is hard. Business is really hard, especially when you're trying to really grow something, right? Mm-hmm. It can be a challenge, and that would would be a tough way to go to kind of have a business fail, because was the business sort of meant to fail, or did it have everything in place except, it just was too much?
Well, all right. So the second restaurant, all right, so the first one I bought, the second one I built from scratch. And that came about from a deck dream, right? When I mean deck, it means my neighbor and I were sitting on my back deck, and we're like going, wouldn't it be cool if we could come up with a concept like this and just put it into action, right? Well, sometime after that conversation, I ran across an opportunity. I'm like going, hey, we can make this real. So an idea into a business, and we as neighbors, I'll let you invest. I think he got like 10% of the company to come up with part of the money. He took a home equity line, right? So he took money out of his house to buy into this restaurant, and it struggled. It was right at the worst possible time in the world. I didn't know it then. We opened in 2007. And I don't know. And in 2008, the bankers burnt the world down, and taking people's homes and everything else, and all these new regulations came in. 2008 was a nightmare, right? It was just I was taking money out of my other businesses and keeping this thing afloat, right? Not taking paycheck, just doing it. Anxiety. You want to talk about anxiety and stress and money flying out of my pocket? That was it, right? So what I chose to do was expand. I went into the company next door went out of business in the strip mall. So I rented that space, blew through the walls, and made it bigger, and made it more into an entertainment type space where people could have things. So I could start booking parties and doing catering and those type of things. But it took a ton of money, right, to do that. It took a lot of money to be able to do that. And at the time, my neighbor just didn't have it, right? He couldn't contribute more, and I felt bad about his investment, right? So we looked for a way where he got I don't know, almost 95 or even 100+ % out of his investment, and I bought out his part. But it was all of that stress, all of that pressure that made him like ready to give up, ready to say, hey, I can't do this. Me, I'd already been part of 5 other businesses. I was just kind of used to it.
You just kind of go,
But it was also hard on me as well, right? So, I wanted to give up. I'm going, if I'm not going to have somebody to help me, just put in time. Just put in time, right? Help me manage it. Help me do something.
Yeah. Well, and of course, like I know that time extremely well. I always credit that's where Dry Run comes from to a large degree, because 2007, we were this sounds so stupid now. We were traveling all over the bloody world and thinking we're going to make all these deals and had all these, and got a big giant office, and all of a sudden 2008 hits, and it's like, like we have 1,000 square feet that's sitting there empty, or a couple, and it's like, well, let's throw a couple ping pong tables in. But the real stress for me, and it comes back to that, like that cash flow is just, that's where the stress really hits. And it's not, because just like you, it's like we're putting personal cash in and not getting paid at times. The stress, though, was more on the fact that I had a bunch of people sitting in that room, and they had mortgages, and they had kids, and they had responsibilities. Because, of course, all our employees are adults, right? Mm-hmm. And that was the biggest stress of all, because we're like, I don't want to lay anyone off. And rightly or wrongly, we didn't lay anybody off. Like, looking back, I'm like, I don't know, did we cut too close to the bone? Like, we survived. But I still don't know if it was like, we probably cut it too close, because we just refused. We're like, these people, where else are they going to go for a job?
Yeah.
So we're going to figure it out. Somehow, by luck and duct tape and chicken wire, we kept that business going and got it back on its feet. But probably could have died 10 times over in that time. And the stress, like I still remember we were in this modern building with this like weird, like floating, kind of staircase thing with cable. It looked really neat. And I remember walking down the stairs, and it's like I'm willing myself to walk down the stairs to get into like where our office was, right? And you're going down those stairs, and it's like you're taking one step at a time, and then it's like before I open the door to the office, take a deep breath, and then walk through with a smile on your face.
Yeah.
because you have to keep upbeat like that, but the pressure, it felt like you had a 1,000-pound safe just crushing you the whole time. And you say like, hey, how's everybody doing? Good day, blah, blah, blah. And then you walk in the back room like, oh my God, what are we going to do here? And it's those times. And I think that's what a lot of people are facing right now, right? Like it's a tough time for businesses.
Well, and what's funny is, I mean, you talk about this, the gut, the pressure and all that. There's a mathematical equation, a ratio that you can use to make this decision for you, right? I mean, if you use ROI, return on investment, one of the biggest reasons people use ROI for anything, is to compare what you should be doing with your money as opposed to what you are, right? So if you take, we'll say your total return, your profit, on an idea, on a business or whatever it is, and divide it by your total investment, your equity, that should give you a return, right? And if you're making no money or negative money or whatever it is, scrap it. Yeah. Don't dig it a bigger hole. I mean, so there's an actual, and if you're making 2% and you can make 5% somewhere else, well, that's a big jump, right? That's a big jump. Yeah. If you're trying to build a lifestyle-friendly business, transfer value back to you, that's a good way to do it. Hey, I've been pondering a company right now on why they still exist, and it's funny, right? What are your thoughts? And I'm going to kind of tell you the way I view their history over the last 20 years or 30 years, actually, and tell you why I think this way. But what do you think of Kodak?
You know what? The thing is, I don't even know. First of all, I didn't know they were still around. And assuming if they are still around, I'm actually quite curious to see what they're doing, because it would have to be completely different than what they were doing 15 years ago, I would guess.
All right, well, check this out. Here's the way I view their history over the last 30 years, right? So I'll even go 40 years. 40 years ago, they were the king of everything. You couldn't go to Walmart, you couldn't go anywhere else, and you saw Kodak, right? You bought Kodak, you saw Kodak, you got it. They lined shelves up with this stuff. Yeah. The 90s came around, and people started getting these digital cameras. And what did Kodak say? It's dumb. That's a dumb idea. There's no way you can sort the pictures. People want to put them in books. They want to show them to their neighbors. They want to, there's no way they're going to want to just put it in on a disc or anything like that. Where does that even go? How do you know it's even going to be safe, right? You're going to lose all your memories. That's kind of what they thought. Then they missed out on that. And people started technology moved from a digital camera into a phone. Right now, everybody has a camera. Yeah. So what did they do in response? Early 2000s, cameras started going into phones. Yeah, they built kiosks in Walmart and those type of things, saying, no, people still want to print pictures, right? They were still held on to it. Nobody wants a digital camera phone. Nobody's going to do that. Yeah. We're still going to take it. But they did move to digital. They said, we'll take your digital picture and put it on a T-shirt or put it on a mug. But you do that every once in a while. It wasn't like they used to print pictures back in the 80s where, every month you had a bunch of them, or twice a year you took 10 rolls of film in. Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm like, okay, they're getting better. At least they're acknowledging that digital's valid. So then right after that, early 2000s, we got the mid 2000s, maybe even late 2000s, maybe 2010, 11, 12, I can't remember the time frame. Well, most of us have an iPhone or an Android phone, right? How many people bought the Kodak phone?
I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, right?
So I guess not very many.
Yeah, so nobody bought. We were already committed to Apple and Google. We weren't committed to Kodak at that point in time. They missed. They could have got into that right at the digital cameras. They could have made a Kodak digital camera and put it into a phone immediately. Yeah. Didn't. They missed it. So they missed digital pictures. Then they missed the equipment, the Kodak phone and all that. They scrapped on that idea. A year and a half ago, you know what their big idea to change the company was?
I didn't know they're still alive, so no.
Yeah.
Curious.
Cryptocurrency. Does that even make sense? Kodak gets into crypto. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it. What is the next thing that they have to do? I don't know what they could do at this point. They have to get way back out in front of something. They're just grasping at straws.
That's what it sounds like, completely grasping at straws. Going back to it, like, I'm curious, maybe they had just somebody that's really smart. They brought him in and went, screw all this, let's do crypto. So I don't know, right? But there's always those famous, and that's the other thing, is giving up on an idea. That's different than kind of flaming someone else's idea.
Yeah.
And you can always think of those famous ones. So that's one that I wasn't familiar with, Kodak. Like, no one will want to do that. But there's the famous Steve Ballmer. I don't paraphrase, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but he's like, no one's going to ever want to pay $1,000 for a phone or whatever. And he slagged the iPhone. Mm-hmm. And then Microsoft, long gone. They never sort of managed to, because Android and became an Android and Apple world, right?
Yep.
There was also a famous quote. Trying to remember, was it a toy company or something like that said video games are a fad. Like, you don't want to be that one either, like that guy either, that's just like you actually slag someone else's idea and you don't see the changing of the guard, like it's just and you never want to say anything because that quote will float around forever. It'll never go away, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, and speaking of, I mean, Courtney just told me about a school in Houston, right, that they have a whole basement level that is more like a training ground for esports, the professional gaming leagues, right, where she says this is an amazing experience. She goes down there and people are just, and I guess this minor league team, in Houston, has never lost. They've never lost as a team in whatever tournaments they go into as minor leagues. They've never lost. So these folks get picked up by these professional gaming teams all around. But think of that. We went from that's a fad. My dad goes, you're going to burn your eyes out watching the screen that much, to now it's a professional sport.
Yeah. And there's some people making a lot of money off of that too. And I'll admit, I've never watched esports, but I'll never say there's nothing there, because it's like an entire generation that is supporting this, right? Like, I still remember at one point when Tony Hawk was the most recognized sports figure in the world with a certain age group. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the world's like, what? Tony Hawk? Yeah. A lot of it is because of the video game that came out, right?
Yeah, it's craziness. So, all right, so let's kind of recap. All right, so the title today was, when should I give up on an idea, right? And I think, there's some big reasons. One, you could actually do better with your money somewhere else, right? When you really just look at it objectively, saying, yeah, I'm in a business or I'm in an idea that really doesn't generate the wealth that I want to, and I could do better over here. Maybe I should just move.
Yeah.
I think another one is, we talked about was like stress. If it gives you health problems, or it's breaking up your family, or, it takes away all your time where you can't get a break. You can't, we talked about that mental break that everyone needs, a couple episodes ago. But if you're that, it's probably time to give up. It's not, health and family and all that's never worth it. And I think the other thing for me is that it's, when we said money and all that, I think if the market doesn't like it, right? Just saying, maybe you're making money or you're not very good at it, but you're making money, but the market's like kind of iffy or even starting to turn, maybe you get out ahead of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the market one is a really important one. But I will say that, make sure you've tested with the right market, and like we were talking before you dive in on these things, try and test it. Try and get someone to pay early, to validate it before you start investing a lot. So in other words, they always say in Silicon Valley, it's like fail fast, mm-hmm. and it's lean startup and all those things, because it's get in, validate, there's something there, take the next step. People are willing to pay, take the next step. It's getting, like we've talked before, it's not even a marathon, it's like running around the world. So you have to, it's a long haul.
Mm-hmm.
But you always have to be conscious of when the market pull isn't there, when they aren't willing to pay for it, when there isn't that, there is no market. You can float around and try and find it. It just isn't there. People don't value it. I think we've talked about this before in different episodes where you have to be able to like recognize the opportunity and pivot. That a lot of times, there's times where you see entrepreneurs fail because they're so dedicated to their own idea and they have so much belief in it. They just won't change it. They won't adjust to it. They will go till they die, till the business is not a business, right?
Yep. All right, well, cool. So episode 29, we got big 3-0 coming up. And I tell you, if you haven't been to mikeandblaine.com, if you haven't seen us on YouTube, we just tried this live streaming thing. Who knows how that's going to go? We might give up on the idea.
Well, we have to find out, are we live? Is there anyone out there listening to us live right now?
I have no idea. I don't even know where to look. We got to figure this thing out. Maybe by next week. The other thing is that, the idea I'm not giving up on is somebody out there is going to buy us a beer. Right? They're gonna say, "Yep, it's worth it." They're gonna go to our website. They're gonna buy us a beer.
Buy us a beer, and you can even buy yourself a T-shirt or a mug.
Yeah, we got some merch now. We got merch. Yeah, we got shirts. We got pullovers. We got coffee mugs. We got it all. So if you like, nobody told you, or nobody told me with Mike and Blaine. Hey, go support us. Go support the show. Tell us you like it. More downloads, more. Tell your friends. I like it.
Go and buy the number one, buy a beer. That'll be the celebration of all celebrations when someone finally buys us a beer. So you can be the first one.
Be the first one. Hey, Blaine, good talking to you. Next, I think we need to come up with some more topics. If you got an idea, shoot us an idea. We'll kind of debate it with you.
Absolutely, love to hear from you guys.
All right, take care.
Recording stopped.
Were we live? Like, are we still live? If we're still live, we should probably shut that down. Hey, everybody, we don't know if we're live right now.
Oh, yeah, there is in there.